This is Meet the Parents.
Oh!
Jinxie, no! Oh my God.
One of the most critically and commercially successful films of the early aughts. And this is what happens when the whole world starts begging for more Fockers. With a cast of Hollywood icons and monumental box office returns, the Meet the Parents sequels should have been a smash. But despite megastar additions to the family, every subsequent entry in the Fockerverse failed to make a good impression.
I need to know someone will be responsible for the whole Burns clan. So I ask you, Greg, are you prepared to be the God Focker?
When Meet the Parents debuted in 2000, it immediately cemented itself as a comedy classic. With its deceptively simple premise, an endearing taste for slapstick, and one Robert De Niro, the film was an easy sell for opening weekend audiences. But as word of mouth spread that the movie packed more jokes per minute than anyone ever expected, Meet the Parents became a worldwide sensation.
I have nipples, Greg. Could you milk me?
While De Niro was no stranger to comedic roles up to that point, no one really knew just how far the Hollywood legend was willing to go. But to match De Niro's steely gaze, Meet the Parents needed to cast a comedic contemporary. Son of master comedians and Seinfeld royalty,
We're gonna be in a clubhouse. We're gonna be all over that shuffleboard court. And I dare you to keep me out.
Ben Stiller was mostly known as the director and star of indie darling Reality Bites. That all changed in 1998 with the disastrously funny Zip of a Fly, because when There's Something About Mary introduced us to Stiller's capabilities, nobody questioned his comedic roots. In the role of Greg, Stiller challenges the norms of masculinity in a way that doesn't feel performative. Proud of his career as a nurse in a predominantly female field, Greg Focker seems like any big city guy who knows himself and feels pretty confident about that. Opening with a funny but romantic look at the lives of the characters gives us a chance to see them at their best, as real, lived-in characters within just a few couple frames. Unfortunately, when faced with anxiety of meeting his girlfriend's, shall we say, intense family, Greg crumbles in just about every way possible. Hoping to propose to his girlfriend at the end of their stay with her family, he can't seem to stop himself from saying the wrong thing and practically destroying everything around him.
Scruffy little paws off of my back, okay? It's not like I have a bomb in here. It's not like I want to blow up the plane.
As Greg's masculinity, faith, and very identity are repeatedly challenged by ex-CIA and future father-in-law, Jack, audiences of every background found something to laugh at. One of the finest examples of so-called disaster comedies, Meet the Parents is that perfect combination of culture clash humor and an everything goes wrong approach. An infamous panic attack-inducing lie detector test between Greg and Jack, back-breaking physical comedy, religious tension, countless one-liners, and, of course, the worst and best ex-boyfriend to ever exist on screen.
Hey, look, if I can handle a weekend without sex and cigarettes, I think I can handle an afternoon with your ex-fiance.
Between all those cat chases and literal yards of toilet humor, Meet the Parents is a comedy with something to say. Although the concept of overbearing father figures was already falling out of fashion in Western culture, De Niro's portrayal hit hard enough that everyone bought in. And because Stiller's early aughts modern man portrayal felt so believable, the combination was undeniable. Exceeding the challenge of changing expectations in the new millennium, the film was blessed by incredible performances, sure, but it's also stacked with culture shock hilarity that could bridge gaps and bring families together. All in all, Meet the Parents is perhaps the mainstream comedy that defines its era, but would those same cliches hold up as society evolves? With such rock-solid foundations, you might think any additional frolics with the Fockers could only result in comedy gold. Throw in a couple more Hollywood legends, expand the locations, stick to the formula. Sounds like a perfect sequel, right? Well, unfortunately for over-eager audiences, when the hilariously titled Meet the Fockers was released in 2004, perfection was the last thing on anyone's mind. Starring all the usual suspects we know and love, Meet the Fockers added two more megastars to an already appealing cast. Acting as the perfect foils to De Niro's hyper-conservative dad, Dustin Hoffman and Barbra Streisand are an undeniable smash as the titular Fockers. Playing up the quintessential liberal hippie parent roles, Hoffman and Streisand are at the top of their respective games in this otherwise staggering sequel. Set just before the marriage of Stiller's Greg Focker, the follow-up film immediately immediately lacks the casual introduction of Meet the Parents. With bizarre attempts at humor from the get-go, it was apparent that things had fallen off course. But once the Fockers were introduced, nervous audiences were almost able to sigh in relief. Almost. Like a picture-perfect game of cat and mouse, the Fockers square off against everything their conservative new in-laws stand for. Whether it's Hoffman shirking masculine norms as a stay-at-home dad, or Streisand's quote-unquote openness as a sex therapist, these Hollywood legends circle each other in truly hilarious fashion. Sadly, the pitch-perfect casting of its central leads was completely offset by some truly terrible comedic timing. Where Meet the Parents balanced its world-ending disasters with inspired comedy, Meet the Fockers just inspires more disasters. The cat chases get longer, the slapstick overstays its welcome, and the failures pile up in ways that defy logic. Clearly operating off the playbook of the original, jokes are repeated in ways that the filmmakers barely tried to mask. Due to the iconic nature of the lie detector scene, Meet the Fockers tries to up the ante with truth serum injections and covert DNA tests. But as the jokes get bigger and broader, the original focus on family tension gets completely lost. De Niro's Jack is scary enough with all the added tech and tomfoolery, and watching him go toe-to-toe with two well-meaning freethinkers should have been the real show. As the film recycles more milk-based humor and familiar lines, the repetition is hard to bear. Since Owen Wilson's role as Ben Stiller's rival played so well in the first film, Meet the Fockers tries to reverse the effect with another former flame. While the introduction of Greg's extremely inappropriate relationship with a housekeeper could have been a hilarious subversion, the tacky addition of a potential lost son is a dark decision. Meant to play for laughs, these contributions to the Focker lore are more mean-spirited than audiences asked for. And sadly, those weren't the only unfortunate additions to the family, because the moment the Fockerverse introduced us to Little Jack, there was no turning back.
Little Jack, what did you just say?
Destined for a strong box office, critics be damned, Meet the Fockers was an enormous financial success which all but ensured a follow-up. And when the terribly titled Little Fockers was unleashed on unsuspecting audiences in 2010, what little goodwill remained for the franchise all but vanished overnight. Following the Focker family several years after the last film, Little Fockers barely resembles either of its predecessors. While the title denotes a chain of events revolving around Greg's kids and Jack's relationship with his grandchildren, the film instead focuses solely on rivalry between the two men. As the generational divide continues to change, this portrayal of machismo is totally deaf and an injustice to the first film's take on masculinity. Wouldn't it be funny to see Grandpa De Niro adapt to his environment? What if, like in real life, the elders out-freak the young Fockers? Instead, the threequel is flat, boring, and painfully unfunny. Societal clashes between different generations, replaced by an obnoxious divorce plot, a disaster comedy with high stakes and physical stunts shorn off in favor of elderly paranoia and a skewed take on infidelity. Even the reintroduction of Owen Wilson can't save Little Fockers from a completely ridiculous set of circumstances. With nearly non-existent appearances from Hoffman and Streisand, De Niro is instead forced to play off Stiller in ways that have thoroughly been mined. Even the attempt to show the stodgy Jack as a fallible human fall completely short in a half-baked heart failure plot. But perhaps most distressing of all is Little Focker's absolute obsession with erectile dysfunction medication. Because at almost every possible instance, this third outing goes to great lengths to remind audiences that Greg Focker's new side gig as pharmaceutical rep is pretty hilarious. Right. Well, based on the box office returns of Little Fockers, you might think moviegoers agreed, but as the plot or any one singular joke related to the film have all but disappeared from public consciousness, it's more likely that audiences were just hoping for more Focker-based fun. Because despite a truly abysmal reception, Little Fockers was a resounding financial success. While both De Niro and Stiller have given us many impeccably hilarious performances, neither actor seems to have much success with comedy sequels. Whether it's De Niro going back to analyze that, or Stiller taking on One Zoolander Too Many, both actors seem hard-pressed for repeatable perfection. Fortunately, films like Midnight Run and Tropic Thunder were never given the sequel treatment, and when we look back on the dire state of Little Fockers, that feels like a blessing. But as we stare down the barrel of another entry in the Fockerverse, any hope of retaining the Meet the Parents legacy seems lost. Because with Focker-in-Law arriving in 2026, it seems unlikely the franchise can ever return to its former glory. But with the announced addition of Ariana Grande joining the cast, perhaps the filmmakers have found the right foil for both Greg and Jack. Rather than reverting to aggressive gross-out gags and uninspired mashups of old jokes, a new Focker film needs to go back to building bridges. In our current world, there is so much to laugh and cry about, so many opportunities to skewer the idea of manliness and family, but with yet another corny title, it's hard to believe Focker-in-Law will break that mold. Because in order to save the Fockers, this fourth entry will have to do more than just introduce a new big-name star or some bizarre disaster set piece. To get back to what made Meet the Parents so great, we have to stop thinking in terms of Focker puns, cats in perils, or lie detector tests. There has to be a return to form in terms of heart and soul. After 2 decades of sour memories, mending the bad blood between audiences and the Fockers is no easy task. In many ways, that's exactly what Meet the Parents tried to tell us. Unfortunately, that blend of conservative values versus modern men seems lost to ill-fitting jokes and questionable taste. And for a simple story about a confident young man having his world torn apart by clashing cultures, the Fockerverse has fallen a little too far from the family tree. And that's it for this week's episode. So, what was your favorite Focker moment from the franchise? Do you have any hopes for a return to the Fockerverse? Let us know in the comments below, and as always, be sure to hit like and subscribe to keep up with all our Nerdstalgic videos.